No vaccine, no cruise. Is that the future of this cruise life? Well, one major cruise line has said publicly they're looking into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cruise News Show. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise updates. It is Saturday, December the 12th, 2020, and the big news from yesterday is that the FDA gave emergency approval for Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. We are one step closer to seeing this vaccine rolled out into the general population. It is unprecedented how quickly that this vaccine was developed and approved. We do have confirmation from one cruise line that they are exploring the legal ramifications of a mandatory vaccine. Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings CEO Frank Del Rio told Travel Leaders Group that there definitely would be a requirement for crew members returning to work to be vaccinated. Del Rio also explained to the group that NCL lawyers were exploring what it would take to require a vaccine passport from its customers. The vaccine passport idea has also been talked about by Qantas Airlines, who suggested that they would require their passengers to be vaccinated before they could use their airline services. So it leaves us with three major questions to evaluate. Can an employer require an employee to be vaccinated? Can an individual business require its customers to show proof of vaccination before they serve them? And then is it likely or unlikely that the United States government will require its citizens to be vaccinated? Let's look at the first question. Can employers require employees to be vaccinated? There is precedent that shows that employers can require employees to do things that they deem to be for the greater good of the company. You can look at a countless number of health and safety regulations that are imposed on workplaces that have been instituted to make a safer work environment, and certainly companies will look at vaccinations as that. There are some exceptions to requiring employees to be vaccinated. There could be medical exceptions where the company would have to try and make a reasonable accommodation for the person that cannot be vaccinated for medical reason. However, if that accommodation is greater than what the company can bear, it could result in the employee being let go from the company. There are also religious exemptions to vaccinations that could be put forth and evaluated by the company. And then also in situations where the workforce is unionized, many times the question of these health and safety regulations, including vaccination, is part of a collective bargaining agreement between the union and the employer. It's not super cut and dry, but for the most part, the precedence is that the employer can require a vaccination and can let go of an employee that refuses to be vaccinated unless there is an exemption or a reasonable accommodation can be made for that employee. And that's a United States perspective of, can an employer require an employee to have vaccinations? It could be different in other countries around the world. The second question is, can an individual company require a vaccination from their customer before they provide service? There is also some precedence for this. I think most of us know the saying, no shirt, no shoes, no service. That is an example of a criteria being set forth by a business that a consumer must adhere to before they can receive service. In more recent times, we have seen businesses exert their right to require their customers to wear masks and to refuse service to those who don't. And so it's not unreasonable to think that individual companies will be able to require a vaccine prior to giving service as vaccination is more widely rolled out over the next year or so. Certainly this will meet with resistance, as we've seen in other circumstances. This will probably be heavily litigated, but I do believe that businesses will go forward with the idea in their mind that they do have the right to require vaccination if they so desire to. And then how does all that play out for U.S. cruising when the consumer base is primarily U.S. citizens and the company that's providing the service is a foreign company? Can a foreign company require citizens of another country to do something like have a vaccine before they could use their service when not everything falls under the same set of laws and regulations? It drove me to the question, what laws govern cruise ships? And there's a whole lot of it depends answers in there. When it comes to territory and maritime law, a lot of it has to do with where the cruise ship is at the time you're trying to apply the law. On waterways that are internal to the United States, harbors, bays, inlets, rivers, U.S. law applies to to any vessel that are in those waterways. Additionally, almost all of the laws of the land apply to territorial waters, and territorial waters are typically defined as water extending from the coast 12 miles into the sea. In these waters, U.S. law would still apply. There's another set of waterways defined in maritime law. It is called contiguous waterways, and those are the waterways that exist from the 12-mile point further out into the sea to the 24-mile point. And in contiguous waters, some laws still apply. For example, the Coast Guard has the right to patrol those waters. They have the right to stop any vessels in those waters that may be suspected of a crime. And so in the contiguous waters, there still is some sort of acknowledgement of U.S. law. And then after the contiguous waters, anything that's 24 miles off the coast of a country is considered international waters, and the law of the country that the vessel is flagged under becomes the law of the vessel, in addition to maritime law and regulation. Other than Norwegian Cruise Line's Pride of America, which is a U.S. flagged vessel, all other cruise ships fly a foreign flag and would be subjected to the laws of the land of the flag that they fly. As you can tell, that makes this question of whether or not cruise lines can require their passengers to be vaccinated, it's kind of convoluted. I do think the big principle at play here is the individual company principle that we talked about. No shirt, no shoes, no service, no mask, no service. I don't think that it matters regardless of the country that that's coming from. I think that there will be a deferment to the policy of the company. So cruise lines, airlines, other forms of travel may very well be able to require vaccination by their passengers before they provide service. It's going to be contentious, that's without a doubt. I'm sure it will be litigated. I'm sure it will be tested. But I could imagine in an industry such as the cruise industry, where there is a hyper focus on what's going on with the virus, an already skewed perception by the general public, the cruise ships are bad, that they're propagating the virus when the data doesn't support that. I could see that the cruise lines would want to do whatever it takes to keep the virus off the cruise ships, and certainly there is some idea that vaccination is going to be that path. And so yeah, I think the big principle here is businesses will be able to define their policies, and it wouldn't surprise me if travel, cruising, all those spaces push for a mandatory vaccine requirement. Now, regardless of where you're at in relation to the coastline, one of the regulations that always kick in place is the regulation that says I should invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you enjoy staying up to date with what's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. No Coast Guard required. Just hit the button. Thanks. And the big question, do I think that the United States government will mandate a vaccine? I do not. Traditionally, we see the federal government pushing these kind of decisions further down the chain, closer to the people. I do believe that a lot of what we see when it comes to mandatory vaccine is the desire to get services. I think about the last time I was required to take a vaccine, it was before I was able to take classes at a university. That was mandated at the university level, decided at the state level. It wasn't mandated on a federal level. And so I do believe that that's what we'll see in this circumstance. I don't see a mandatory vaccination policy at the federal level. I think it will be pushed further down the chain. But hey, those are just my opinions. I would love to hear yours. More specifically, are you looking for a cruise experience where the vaccine has been mandated, or are you looking for a cruise experience where the vaccine is not mandated? Leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching the show today. Please share your support by hitting the like button. This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.